really wonderful when someone's already shaking their head on the panel. We haven't even started. Oh, we have. Welcome back to More Up North. I'm really glad we have this panel. Not everybody agrees by any stretch with each other. In fact, not at all in some places. So this should be interesting. If it gets a little heated, we may have to go to a quick break. Emergency break. I'm kidding, we won't. WIllis is here. He's a former biologist for the Alaska Department of Fish and Game and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and he's currently developing a non-profit public education and public relations called the Science Now Project. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
It's kind of a rebel rouser too, I hear. Bob Bell is here. He is a former member of the Alaska Board of Game 2004 to 2010 and a strong advocate of the state's predator control policy. And he served on the Anchorage Assembly from 93 to 99 and he owns his own engineering firm. He's a veteran and he's been in Alaska for more than 40 years. Wow, thanks for being here. And you know what? Here's the thing, there were other people invited and you would think people that shoot things in the wild would not be afraid to come on and talk to me. Apparently, not so true. So Bob Bell is here. Thank you, Bob. And the voice of reason on the panel, in more ways than one, I'm sure. Dr. Vic VanBallenberghe is here. He's a retired Alaska Department of Fish and Game biologist. He served on the Board of Game under 2 governors. He has spent decades in the field researching moose and wolves and their relationship. He's the author whose published works have been printed in National Geographic and include the book In the Company of Moose. I know, they're pretty interesting. For such a tasty creature. He was also awarded in 2006 the Olaus Murray Award for Outstanding Professional Contributions to Alaska Conservation by the Alaska Conservation Foundation. There's a lot of conservations in there. I have a billion notes, and frankly, I don't want to use any of them yet. This issue of aerial wolf hunting, I find both sides on it have a tendency to make the other people out to be less Alaskan. I've said it myself that I think that if you're going to shoot a wolf out of an airplane, you probably just need to reload your Viagra at home, okay? I've made insinuations about this, and I've done it as well. And the other side, including Sarah Palin, have said that if you're against it, you're a greenie weenie, you're outside, you're a Hollywood elitist, and none of the people on this panel are any of those things. Hollywood elitist, anyway. Maybe, let's start with you. Why do you think that we can't get to the point of just saying, okay, we're all Alaskans, let's have a conversation about this without getting it jacked up upside down?
Well, I think it basically boils down to the decade of hate. You know, everybody's marginalizing everybody. It's us versus them. It's the mentality of death by 1,000 cuts. And it's not the Alaskan way. And I think it's been driven extremely hard by the insertion of fairly radical environmental and pro-hunting groups on both sides of the issue.
Bob, would you agree with that? What is your thought on this?
Yeah, I would agree with that. First of all, not to correct you, but there is no such thing as aerial hunting in Alaska. There is aerial predator control.
Right, whatever.
Well, really, if you take the hunting regulations.
If you're a wolf and you're shot from an airplane, it's considered hunting.
From the wolf's point of view, and that's where I was going with this. What we need to look at as Alaskans on both sides of this, all of these issues, is what's our goal here? Our goal is to have sustainable populations of all game. Predators, prey, non-game, all of them. That's our goal. That's the goal of the Department of Fish and Game. That's the goal of the Board of Game. So what we get into an argument about is how are we going to do that? But the main goal, the whole time I was on the board, the first thing we looked at was what's the impact on the game? What's the impact on that species that we're passing some kind of rule about?
So that's great, and we're going to get to that, but that's not really my question. My question is, why do we have this, this idea that if you don't agree with a certain practice that's happening under the Board of Game or the Department of Fish and Game, that you are less Alaskan or more wimpy perhaps, or just don't have the stomach for it, or or some sort of outsider.
We've gotten into this thing, even, I'm going to digress here a little bit, but in our politics, our local, state, and federal politics, we've gotten into this character assassination mode of the way to defeat somebody is to attack them personally. And we're seeing that spill over into this. If you don't agree with the way that I think we should manage game, then you must be a communist. And if I don't agree with the way you think we should manage game, I'm some kind of extreme hunter. And so it's an attack on you, or it's an attack on me, or it's an attack on somebody else. And it brings us back to, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to maintain viable populations of these species. And so if we want to call each other names, we can go to a bar and get in a fist fight over what kind of beer you drink.
That's what we're doing. Ready. And I should say, Bob was sitting on the board of game when I went and testified about opening up McNeil River. And so we go way back. And Vic, you are one of the most science-based, level-headed people I think I've ever talked to about this issue. You don't seem to get your knickers in a knot about personalities or any of this, but you've been in the fray of this issue and seen this going back and forth. What do you think it is that makes us want to make the other outsiders or whatever?
Well, actually, my knickers are in a knot. And the reason why is because of some of the recent developments that have happened just in the last couple of months and years. And I've been involved in this issue since 1974, 36 years at one level or another. And I think prior to a few years ago, most people were fairly reasonable on this topic. I didn't see the level of discord and the level of extremism that we've had here recently. And so now I think one reason why things are so crazy is that a lot of people look at some of the recent developments and say, why are we shooting little bitty bear cubs in the spring? Why are we shooting sow bears with cubs? Why are we transporting bear hunters to bait stations with helicopters? Why are we gassing little baby wolves in dens? And a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, this stuff is crazy. And how did we get there? Well, we got there because of this intensive management or management for abundance idea, whatever you want to call it. And the game board has not been content with adopting and maintaining procedures that have worked for us for decades, but instead they have gone way, way out on the extreme end of the spectrum, and they've adopted these practices. And so I think that really gets under people's skin on the side of folks that tend to question them.
Okay, I take it back about you being the voice of reason. You're getting me going. No, I'm kidding. Well, that's true, I think. And I look at this, I'm trying to look at this from a broader perspective than just my gut feeling. I grew up with a trap line. I've spent my life, hunting, fishing. I grew up eating bear meat. I mean, most people don't do that are shooting these bears now. In a subsistence lifestyle. It's really important. And what that is to people to have that subsistence lifestyle is you can't buy it in the store. You just really can't. And so when we're looking at this from a broader base, there's a lot of people who aren't participating in the hunting. How many Alaskans are getting licenses to hunt?
Less than 20%.
So less than 20%. How many people come up here from out of state to big game hunt?
It's a very small number.
Like 5,000, 10,000?
Well, of all the animals that die in Alaska every year, 3 to 6% are killed by humans. All the rest are killed by predators or accidents. Of that 3 to 6% that are killed by humans, less than 3% of the 3 to 6% are non-resident hunters.
Okay, so that was my question. It's a very, very small number. And do we know what they spend? Like, what is, You know,
80% of the money that goes to fund the Department of Fish and Game comes from non-resident hunters. I get a moose tag, you get a moose tag for free. They pay $500 for a moose tag. And then they pay, I think it's $60 for a hunting license. So if they come up here to hunt, they're
but the
going to
Fish and
pay.
Game is funded